Come light it up, I'm ready to go. Come light it up, come light it up, I'm ready to go. Come light it up.
Thanks for the intro, Monica. I'm happy to be here at Data Nova today, February 9th. My name's Anders Swanson, and I'm going to talk about DBT and Starburst Galaxy, what that looks like together. I'm really excited. Thanks for joining. So to start off, here's me. I'm Anders. I work at DBT Labs. I've been here for just over a year now. I used to be a math teacher. I like to keep myself humble and share embarrassing photos of myself. This is me at Harry Potter World. I may look like I'm 12, but I think I was 19. And that's my daughter. She just had her 1-year-old birthday. She's a big girl now. Yeah. So an important distinction that's always to make, if you haven't heard of us and what we're up to, DBT is an open source product that we are at DBT Labs are the stewards of. Originally, we started as a data analytics consultancy, but eventually had an internal tool, DBT, that became very popular and we pivoted to become sort of a cloud SaaS data product. So that's the name of our company, and we have DBT as our tool set. We have an open core, open source version of our tool, but we also have a cloud product of DBT called DBT Cloud. Just to talk about what we're going to be doing today, really simple. We're going to talk about DBT. What is it? Just really quick overview. We're going to talk about how that product works, how it's been adopted, and then I want to show you a really great demo that Monica had worked on, and Jeremy previously, a colleague of mine, to show you exactly what is the magic of them together. I believe Jeremy called it SQL in heaven. So some goals and non-goals. I'm going to do a really quick overview of DBT. I'm going to show Trino and Galaxy in action. I want to show you how you can get started and involved, and that's it. I'll be in the chat for questions. I'd love to help, but mostly I'd hope to be in touch and stay together, in our DBT community and elsewhere. Some non-goals is I'm not trying to make this the best intro to Trino or Galaxy. That's not my area of expertise, nor am I going to make this the best intro in DBT. There's many of these. I might even suggest my colleague Jeremy Cohen's talk from Cinco de Trino last year. We're also not going to get, unfortunately, it's my favorite to get into the deep dive advanced topics, but we're not going to be getting into that much either. So just as a heads up. So let's get into it. Okay, so to talk about DBT, we have to talk about the history of the industry and everything that's going on. Basically, it's this transition from an era of ETL to ELT. And the reason is that things used to be very expensive, like storage and compute, and databases sat on servers, next to the bathroom on the second floor of your office. Everything were very expensive and hard to maintain. So when we were loading data into our warehouse, we would minimize the amount of data that would eventually land there. Additionally, we would try and always minimize the amount of the complexity of queries that would happen, and spend a lot of time normalizing and cleaning it before it got there. In this era of cloud data warehousing, starting from is almost 15-20 years ago, we have columnar data storage, which means it's efficient. We have cheap cloud available storage, which means storage is cheap, compute is cheap. Why not just move all of the data in there, right? So in this scenario, rather than leaving out and making this load step unrepeatable, it's let's try to encapsulate as much as possible of all the transformations inside of the data warehouse, so that we can always start over and do it over again, which isn't always the case historically. If you leave out a certain column, 3 years later you're SOL. So ETL, ELT, this is sort of the transition. And DBT sits squarely in this transform section. I think the story with Starburst Galaxy and Trino kind of forces us to revisit this paradigm, but that's maybe the 201 level of this talk that we'll get into more. So, as an analytics engineer was this job title that we've sort of helped to define as a category. The people are working inside of a data warehouse, and they expect that either another team or another tool has already put raw data from their upstream sources into the data warehouse. And they try to do all of their work in transforming and getting ready for analytics and downstream use cases inside of the data warehouse. I think we kind of already talked about this, so to keep going. The DBT viewpoint. I think I really like being able to say the irreverent line that, like, what we do here at DBT Labs and with DBT is nothing new and fancy. In some cases, our roadmap and product vision is easier because we're just copying what was best practice for software engineers 10 years ago. So if you have a web development background, any sort of software development background, things like Git and frameworks and testing, these are blasé terms that everyone assumes that you're doing. But in the data world, like, people wouldn't mention about, like, using CI/CD on their Git repo for their data transformations. A lot of this was manual. If you go to my LinkedIn, I'm pretty proud of my current LinkedIn headline. It says there's lies, damned lies, and point-and-click BI tools. I think the best champions for tools like DBT come from backgrounds like myself, of, like, really being in the trenches and really struggling to maintain a large set of reports and analytics, and not having version control and testing. Like, it's really, really hard. So given the diversity of languages that we have, like Python and SQL and R and Hadoop and MapReduce, like, all of this is difficult. It's harder for business users to know. So, like, we picked SQL because, it's rather easy for like, lots of finance people end up knowing SQL. You can pick it up pretty well. It's been around for 50 years. We love it. And then again, like I said, the engineering. As far as the numbers, like, we're very excited about sort of our viral growth. Like, there's 16,000 companies using DBT. Like, we have 3,000 cloud customers. Lots of trainings we've gone through, which is great. And in our community Slack, we have over 50,000 people, which is a mind-blowing amount. Just to share off some logos too, like, lots of happy enterprise companies using our product today. And if you were to join us in the community Slacks, particularly like the Trino and Starburst channel, you'll hear lots of that sort of user passion for this. But to kind of close out what I think is just this DBT demo, again, I highly recommend that you visit Jeremy's demo from Cinco de Trino last year, and I'll share a link later in the comments. But to close out what I think are kind of the big value props of what this the DBT development framework is that it enables collaboration. Like, you're not copying and pasting, you're not emailing code between each other. It's not a situation where you can't even see what made a graph or where a number is coming from. Helps you work as a team quickly. It helps ensure quality. There's governance too, right? Like, if we're managing access from a single place and we're using source control and it's tested, and we're deploying to a production resource that has limited access, like, these are all the things ultimately that we want. So I love DBT. I would hope that a lot of y'all have heard of it. If you haven't, I'm excited for you to learn more. But with that, like, I think that's a pretty good overview, I think, of what DBT is about and DBT Labs and our cloud product. Okay, so we talked about DBT. Now I want to show you the demo. And huge credit goes to, standing on the shoulders of giants here, goes to both, like, my colleague Jeremy Cohen, who built, like, an initial version of this for Cinco de Trino, but then the real work was done here by Monica, who was able to make this, like, a true example of, like, this federated Lakehouse example. So we'll get into it. You can have this thing here. This is sort of a temporary place. We might see that it gets merged upstream and consolidated and updated over time. Effectively, this is a simulated sort of data lakehouse architecture. And at Starburst, some folks will use bronze, silver, gold to talk about stages of a lakehouse. Here we're talking terms in terms of the land, structure, consume, or staging, core, semantic. Like, there's lots of options that call this. But effectively, you could see that here in the lineage graph of what this project looks like. Right, here's our source data, and then here's our stage models. Here's some intermediate cleaning, and then here's, like, the final aggregations. Like, this would be the gold data that might be consumed downstream. So it's a toy example, so we don't need to say, not to say there's much meaning here to be derived, but the data sources come from a source on COVID data, some demographic data from Snowflake on vaccinations and demographic data, and then also the TPCH data set. Like, obviously, TPCH is mostly used for testing and performance. We don't normally use it, like, in production, but hey, this is a really great way to showcase the power of Trino and Starburst Galaxy with DBT. Is whereas normally you might be living in three separate systems with three different query languages and struggle to orchestrate and move between them and be like stuck using like awkward Hive or Glue catalogs. Like, I'm going to show you how this works very simply. Here we are in DBT core, and I have the repo cloned, and I just wanted to overview, like here we're talking about the three things. There's a data lake with AWS with COVID-19 data. We have some public Snowflake COVID-19 data sets, and then the TPCH. And just as a caveat, there's a lot of paradox in both in how we train and showcase DBT, and the same is true of Starburst Galaxy, right? Like I said earlier, like DBT focuses on the T of the transform, but it assumes that the data is there. So if you want to learn how to do it, you have to go and make a database and put data into it, right? Same thing that goes with Starburst Galaxy is like, if you want to understand how easy it can be to get data from various places, you have to go and put data into various places. So there is this infra setup for those of you who want to go through and do it. I've been lucky enough, Monica was able to have done all the legwork here and just kind of let me have easy mode. I also have Starburst Galaxy open right now with and I'm logged in on the same information, so I'll be jumping between them. Just as an overview, you can see like we have the staging, we have intermediate, and we have aggregates, like sort of this MART architecture, Lakehouse architecture. Command C. So now I might call, like normally what we would call is things like dbt deps to install some packages. There's great utility functions that we can use, but the great function here is dbt build, which kind of is going to do create any seed tables, run our models, run any tests against that. And whoops, it couldn't find that. Why is that the case? Oh, I do have to call dbt deps. Wow. This is live. That's why we don't do live demos. Let's try again. Fingers crossed. Here we go. So it's running through of all these models that we saw already here in this dbt docs. It's running, created them. There's also tests for uniqueness on all of them as well. And this is the one that we expected to fail. Don't worry about this part. Okay, so that happened. So what's really impressive for me is that we ran 15 tests in 30 seconds, and we were able to create all of these models in also a number of seconds. This is great. So yeah, that's the core demo. This is what we have today. Ideally, we hope in some point in the future to have cloud compatibility. We can use our cloud products together. But I can go and I can browse any of these data sets. Like I can now look at Agnation inside of Starburst Galaxy. Here's my schema that I was loading into, this target schema, and I'm looking for this Agnation, and I can query it. My gold data set. Ba-doo. Here it is. Great, and I see this. This is great. So the power of the abstraction here, right, is that like Galaxy lets us use and consolidate all of this disparate data sources into one place as if it's all like in the same box. And dbt helps like execute and simplify the orchestration of all of these various sources. And it's all under one place. It's all source controlled. There's tested. Like, you know, what's not to love here, right? So that's the end of this. And that's all really I have to share today. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. David S. Pumpkin reference, any questions? I'd love to answer them in the chat. But yeah, like I'm really excited moving forward. Like stay tuned. There's obviously fun stuff in the pipes. But while we're here, you're here. I have 30 minutes and I've only been talking for about 15. I wanted to show you one more thing. So let's go, where am I? So we saw the docs already. You see I was searching for David S. Pumpkins already. Here was something kind of cool I wanted to show you. Here I am inside of DBT Cloud, and I have this same demo set up. And you can see I can open up any of these files. And what I wanted to look at is to see if I can get away with this same thing. I already learned my lesson before. dbt dapps. Let's see if that runs. Okay, well, that finished. This one isn't working. But now let's do the, the amazing DBT builds. We're going to build these same models again. And while this builds, I wanted to just call out one thing that I just learned about Trino earlier is how this works. As far as materializations, there's just an option that's configured about this. We don't have this in other adapters, but there's an option between doing like a traditional data warehouse, like rename if it exists just to preserve state versus just yeeting it and dropping and recreating. So when we come to cloud and you look in this project info, you'll notice there's this on table exists drop. So there's just like a really cool Trino feature. Oh, it looks like it failed. Let's see what happened. Oh, it looks like most things passed, but then it looks like this test failed. But sure, the job failed, but we expected it to fail, right, Monica? So I don't know if you'll notice, this is DBT Trino running in DBT Cloud on a Starburst Galaxy Trino cluster. Maybe I lied to you earlier when I said I couldn't talk about this. We've got it. It's coming really soon. I think I've been told by the end of March, y'all, this will be in all y'all's hands. So everyone's very excited inside it. People have been asking this for a very long time. Monica and I are so excited to help everyone get onto this, get working, because it's going to be a game changer. Starburst Galaxy and DBT Cloud together. You heard it here first. And thanks for being here with me for my first attempt to do like a Marvel post-credit scene. So yeah, I'm Anders from DBT Labs, signing off. See y'all on DBT Cloud really soon.